Hey everybody, this is the Esoteric Cross. I make videos about how to gain your personal power while learning ancient secrets, and if that sounds like something that you're into, please hit the like button and subscribe and gain insight from this perspective in the cosmos. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Zodiac and what the significance is of the crosses. We have the fixed cross, the Cardinal Cross, and the Mutable Cross. I say this in just about every video because I never know who is stumbling across my videos or these concepts for the first time. It's important to note that the esoteric meanings of the concepts are actually about you and your consciousness. This is just as much psychological as it is spiritual. The sun always represents consciousness. The sun is giving life to the earth just as your consciousness gives life to your body. Now, if we're talking about the planets, then we're talking about our reflections of the sun, because they do not create light of their own. So the planets in astrology are really different reflections of consciousness. These planets just reflect the sun's light. When we talk about the zodiac signs, we're actually talking about different aspects of the sun, who the sun is at different parts of a cycle, who consciousness is at different parts of a cycle. And when we're talking about the 4 seasons or the 4 elements, we're talking about the 4 different aspects of the terrestrial reality. The 4 ways that life on Earth responds to the cycle of the sun. The 4 aspects of your reality and the ways that your reality responds to your consciousness. I highly recommend watching my video titled, "The Zodiac is Not What You Think," to get an idea of the cycle that consciousness goes through. You may know that the zodiac has different types of signs. We have the elemental signs like earth, water, air, and fire signs. And then we also have the cardinal, the fixed, and the mutable signs. If you look at the wheel of the zodiac and highlight all of the fixed signs, you will see that this forms a cross, hence the term the fixed cross. You have the fixed sign of spring, Taurus, the fixed sign of summer, Leo, the fixed sign of autumn, Scorpio, and the fixed sign of winter, Aquarius. The fixed cross is one of the most important things in not only astrotheology, but also one of the most important concepts that have been encoded within civilization. And I'll get more into that in a moment when I go over the fixed cross. There's also a cardinal cross and a mutable cross. But what do these all mean? This is all about where the sign falls within the season. If you divide the zodiac into the 4 seasons, you end up with 3 zodiac signs per season, or 3 months per season. The first sign of the season will always be a cardinal sign. The sign that falls in the middle of the season will always be a fixed sign, and the sign that falls at the end of a season will always be a mutable sign. There is a much deeper truth behind the exoteric meanings of all of this, and of course I'm going to say it's about consciousness. But this is about moving into a higher state. This is all about initiation. Where the sign is placed within the season is very important to this concept. For example, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So right away, this should tell you that this sign is all about the beginning of something big, because it's at the beginning of the wheel. Also, it's the beginning of spring, so this suggests that this symbolizes the beginning of new life, or a rebirth after darkness. Another example I could give is the sign of Virgo being the last sign of summer. A sign being at the end of a season would symbolize the ending or transitioning phase. Virgo being at the end of summer would suggest that this is all about an in-between stage of higher states and lower states of consciousness, the search for balance. And another example could be the sign of Leo being in the middle of summer. Because this is in the middle, it represents the fullness of that season. Being the season of summer, this is where the sun is at its most hot and most forceful. The sign of Leo represents the blazing radiance of consciousness. So let's go ahead and dive deeper into each of these crosses of the zodiac. I'm going to start with the fixed cross, because the fixed cross is the main focus of working with the zodiac, to live boldly and fully in the center of all of the benefits of that season. Now, what does this mean? Consciousness can be kind of broken down into these 3 stages. You have the birth, the beginning, the generative principle. Then this leads into order, living, thriving, And then into the final stage is destruction, death, and transition. When we examine a fixed sign, you are examining the ordering, the living, and the thriving stage, the middle. This is the sweet spot of the season. Each of these fixed signs embody the fullness of the season. The first sign will be the sign of Taurus, the middle of spring. This is the time where the flowers are blooming, everything is warming up, pollen is probably getting really heavy. Taurus is the fixed sign that fully embodies growth, order, and gaining momentum. This is the ideal state of spring, or the element of air, also known as the mental body. Though Taurus is an earth sign, Taurus represents the fullness of spring, which is the element of air. Gaining momentum, growth, practicality, and true abundance are the qualities that are wonderful for the mental body. The fixed sign of summer is Leo. Leo sits at the middle of summer, embodying the heat, the blazing fire of the sun. This is the state where the sun is at its most powerful. Consciousness is at its most powerful state. Spirituality is at its most powerful state. Fire is the element of spirituality and the seat of the self-power, of God power. This sign embodies living at the truest, most authentic self. And Leo is a fire sign, and this is placed in the middle of summer, which is the season associated with the element of fire. The fixed sign of autumn is Scorpio, which embodies the fullness of the season. Autumn is an ending period. Of course, the crops are dying, the leaves are dying and falling off the trees. Change is coming. Scorpio is the sign of death, change, and darkness. This state is the peak of the destructive quality of consciousness. Be mindful that this is not a bad thing. Our consciousness needs this destructive stage in order to change, in order to realize itself and make adjustments to the goal at hand. We learn so much by embodying the Scorpion aspect. Scorpio is a water sign placed in the middle of autumn, which is the season associated with the element of water. This makes sense because this is the season of change and transition, flowing into a new stage. The final fixed sign is Aquarius, which is in the middle of winter. This is a time where the light starts increasing more and more each day as the sun is journeying its way back to the northern hemisphere. The aspect that the sun or consciousness embodies is the aspect that climbs and that overcomes darkness with innovation, invention, perseverance, and seeking truth. These are the traits of the Aquarian. This is the ideal state of this season and the element that is associated with the season, which is Earth. Aquarius is an air sign, which is largely associated with intellect and innovation. But the lesson taught here by this aspect is one that is associated with the physical body, the element of earth. It is the link of the mental air body and the physical earth body that overcomes darkness with a swift conviction. Remember, winter is about darkness and being void of life and growth. But yet, this ideal state in the center of it is all about the transcendence of that and getting ready for rebirth. Moving on to the Cardinal Cross. The Cardinal Cross is about initiation. I started with stage 2, which was about the fixed cross because that was about the sweet spot of consciousness in its ideal state. But the Cardinal Cross is the first stage and will initiate you on the process to getting there. The first cardinal sign is Aries, which is the first sign of spring, and this is about birth. The sun is beginning its new life here in the northern hemisphere, as it has just crossed the equator. Consciousness has accepted a new idea, started a new change, or possibly committed to a new way of life. This initiation will eventually transition into the sweet spot of the growth of Taurus. The cardinal sign of summer is Cancer. Remember, summer is the season of fire, the season where the sun is at its most powerful. Cancer is the builder of the home for the sun. Cancer is the sign that initiates the sun into the peak of its true power, which will then be experienced in the fixed sign of Leo. The cardinal sign of autumn is Libra, which is the first sign of autumn, and the first sign that the sun passes into after crossing the equator back into the southern hemisphere. When the sun is at the equator, it shines light equally between the northern and the southern hemispheres. The light is perfectly balanced. Libra is the sign of balance and is the initiation of consciousness into its descent. Libra is the initiation of the destruction of self, or personal identity. This could be viewed as the initiation into the dissolution of self. The cardinal sign of winter is Capricorn. This is where the sun or consciousness has reached its lowest point in the southern hemisphere. When you hit rock bottom, the only direction left is up. Capricorn is the aspect where the consciousness faces itself. It faces this darkness and works really hard to overcome it. This is the initiation of consciousness into the resurrection of light, the resurrection of the sun, the resurrection of the Son of God, the resurrection of the Christ consciousness. This is the initiation into the fixed sign of Aquarius, which will of course transcend this darkness very quickly. And lastly, we have the Mutable Cross, and the Mutable Cross is all about transformation. This is the ending stage of this consciousness or God cycle. This is the stage where the lesson is learned, where transition happens, where practicality is applied, and also where the understanding has been reached. You might observe through the Mutable Cross that all of these signs have an aspect of duality and blending of two things. The mutable sign of spring is Gemini, and this is all about duality and transcendence. This aspect advances the consciousness into a higher view of self and of God. There are two angels which Gemini is represented by, and this can be representing looking at oneself from the outside, or looking at another and seeing the self, thus seeing God. This is the ending or understanding stage of the birth of spring. The mutable sign of summer is Virgo, and this sign is all about creating order and searching for balance. Virgo is the virgin who will give birth to the sun, giving birth to consciousness. Virgo, being the ending stage of the fiery light of summer, is about blending this height of spirituality with form, making it practical, bringing it into the physical reality, which makes sense that this is an earth sign. Earth represents the physical body, and also that Virgo is giving birth to the Son of God. Virgo represents the aspect that takes the spirituality of the sun of Leo and makes it physical. The mutable sign of autumn is Sagittarius. This is represented by a centaur, which is a hybrid of a man and a horse. The horse representing the animalistic, lower qualities of consciousness, and the man representing the higher, more ascended aspects of consciousness, half angel and half demon. This is the ending stage of the autumn season, which was all about death, destruction, and transition. Sagittarius represents the aftermath of the descent from Scorpio. The wider view, the understanding gained from this mutable sign, is that of darkness. The fact that we contain both light and darkness. In this aspect, we have the wider view and understanding of what that really looks like, and we can observe what adjustments are needed. The mutable sign of winter is Pisces. Pisces is at the very end of the zodiac wheel and represents change, transition, and karma. What has been put into the work is what comes out. The fixed sign of Aquarius transcended the darkness very fast and brought the sun back into light, and Pisces is the result of that effort. This sign is represented by two fish, and here we are again with this duality. Being a water sign, this is about flow and transition as we're getting ready to birth a new consciousness, birthing the Son of God. This is why a symbol of Christianity and of Jesus is the fish. This sign, much like Libra, represents the balance of light on the southern and northern hemispheres, because at the end of the sign, the sun has reached the equator. Let's take a moment and see how we can bring this knowledge into a more practical sense. We can visualize where we may be on this cross at this moment in time with a specific situation. We may also have a vision of where we want to go with a goal or situation. Each of these signs are aspects that you have. Your consciousness embodies these different aspects at different times. So take a moment and visualize yourself at your best self within each of these stages. The crosses of the zodiac is something that isn't talked about too much within occultism. So hopefully this video helped to break it down and make it a bit easier to understand this wonderful piece of astrotheology. If you want access to exclusive content and live streams, the link to my Patreon is in the description. If you're interested in working with me, I do offer one-on-one coaching for beginning ceremonial magic. My program is about balancing and working with the 4 elements, and I think this could be very beneficial for you. Just send me an email about my 4 Corners program. My email is in the description of this video. I also offer private tarot readings, and you can reach out to my email for more information. I hope there was something new that you were able to take away from this video. If so, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.